Hello and welcome to the history of Babylon 5. Today's episode, The History of Delenn, Part 1. Delenn of Mir was the Minbari ambassador to Babylon 5 and a founder of the Interstellar Alliance. In 2202, Delenn was born in the southern regions of Minbar, in the family of Mir, a member of the 10th Fane of Elira, a religious clan. As a small child, Delenn's father used to carry her on his shoulders to a temple so that she could see everything. One day, Delenn visited Yador with her family, and at one point she found herself lost and separated from them. After wandering the increasingly dark and narrow streets, she eventually found herself in an old temple, feeling safe in this place and certain that if she stayed and waited for her parents that they would come for her. After several hours, she eventually fell asleep. When she awoke, Delenn saw a version of Delenn smiling down at her, bright against the darkness. He told her that if she believed, then her parents would come for her, saying, "I will not allow harm to come to one of my little ones in my great house." Just then the doors opened and her parents came running in. Not long afterwards, her mother entered the Sisters of Valeria, a great honor for her family. Delenn would see her again only twice in the next several decades. Though she missed her mother greatly, she respected her decision. As Delenn grew older, her father told her that she had become too big for him to carry anymore. It was that day she realized she would one day lose him. As an older child, Delenn befriended Malin, who even at a young age loved poetry. Delenn remained close to Malin as they grew up, with Malin eventually becoming an accomplished poet, earning the title Shal for her skill in the Talah. After years of training and study on Minbar, in 2232 she was chosen to become an acolyte to the Great Council. At this time she first came aboard. The great Minbari leader Dukat led the council. In 2245, during a debate on contacting a race called humans, Dukat called Delenn into the council chambers and prompted a response from her that embarrassed the rest of the council members. He decided to take her on as his personal aide and chosen disciple. She studied under him to become Satai, a member of the Great Council, standing in for Satai Kadrani before her formal induction. Delenn heard Lanan's appeal for support of the Analashak. Though it was inappropriate, Dukat allowed Delenn to offer her advice on the matter. Lanan warned that the prophecies of Delenn regarding the return of the Shadows was drawing near. Delenn suggested an expedition be sent to the Shadows' ancient homeworld of Zahadum to see where they were. When the warriors on the council rejected this, Dukat decided the council itself would investigate. The ship bearing the Great Council went in secret, with only a couple of support vessels. En route, Delenn discovered Dukat had arranged for some equipment to be brought on board to provide for an alien atmosphere. Delenn suspected Dukat was in contact with the elusive Vorlons, but he did not respond outright. Delenn was inducted into the Great Council during the voyage. During her initiation ceremony, she was presented with a triluminary, which glowed brightly as she brought her hand near it. After the ceremony, she asked Dukat about this, but before he could answer, an alarm sounded. The council came together to see what the alert was about. A fleet of unknown vessels had been shadowing their ships. The Minbari ships turned to approach the alien fleet, opening their gun ports in a traditional sign of respect. Delenn believed the ships were human in origin, a race the Minbari Federation had not actually encountered before. The council also noticed nearby ships belonging to the Soul Hunters, who only came where there was great death. The human ships opened fire on the Minbari vessels, causing severe damage before exiting into hyperspace. Dukat was critically injured. He spoke to Delenn as he lay dying, but at that time she did not hear his message, as she was in shock over what had happened. He died moments later. The surviving council was split on what to do, with Delenn casting the deciding vote to pursue the humans and wipe them out completely. After her rage cooled, Delenn realized that there would be no stopping what she had ordered. The religious and warrior castes were both united in a single desire to destroy the human race completely. Thus began the Earth-Minbari War. And we'll be right back after this. The Earth-Minbari War. Delenn quickly came to regret her decision, but she could not turn back the tide that had been unleashed. With far greater technology, the Minbari easily outmatched the Earth Alliance. Delenn knew that the war would continue to escalate into full genocide, but felt powerless to stop it. At that time, she was contacted by Kosh and Ulcrest of the Vorline Empire, who had been dwelling inside Dukat's chambers aboard the ship. They played a recording of Dukat's, wherein he mentioned that the humans would play a critical role in the upcoming Shadow War. Now more than ever, Delenn sought a way to end the war. After a year of fighting, with the humans suffering one retreat or utter loss after another, Delenn and a few of her agents managed to arrange a meeting for Lenon and some human representatives by way of the Narn regime diplomat Jakar. Unfortunately, the meeting was attacked and Lenon was killed. Both sides believed a rogue faction of their own government to be responsible, and all hope of peace died with Lenon. The two human representatives were captured, but after hearing one of them say a phrase taught by Lenon, Delenn allowed them to leave unharmed. Unknown to her at the time, the two representatives were John Sheridan and Stephen Franklin. After nearly 3 years of fighting, the Minbari prepared to make their final assault on Earth itself. Delenn went to Kosh and Ulcrest, still dwelling in Dukat's place, seeking their advice. They replied cryptically, telling her that the truth points to itself. The Great Council cruiser was present with the rest of the massive Minbari fleet that bypassed Mars and attacked Earth in the Battle of the Line. As the last of Earth's defenses crumbled before the Minbari onslaught, Delenn suggested bringing one of the humans on board for questioning. She pointed at a nearby Star Fury that was attempting a suicide ramming attack, and it was brought on board the ship. The pilot was Jeffrey Sinclair, who was beaten, questioned, and then probed with a triluminary, which glowed brightly when it was brought near him. At the time, the council discovered something shocking. Sinclair had a Minbari soul. And not just any soul, but the soul of Valen. Delenn easily convinced the council to end the conflict. Rather than explain this revelation, they issued an order to surrender. The war was over. As for Sinclair, Delenn ordered that his memories be suppressed by means of a telepath. The council decided that Sinclair needed to be monitored discreetly, so he would not remember the event, and Delenn volunteered to take on the assignment. During the war, Delenn's beloved father passed away. She later said that he died of a broken heart, overseeing his people go to war with the humans. The Babylon Project. The following year, the Earth Alliance launched the Babylon Project in hopes of avoiding any future conflicts such as precipitated the Earth-Minbari War. Unfortunately, the project took almost 10 years to get off the ground, as the first 3 Babylon stations were sabotaged and destroyed before they could be completed. And Babylon 4 disappeared 24 hours after going online. Finally, the 5th station, Babylon 5, went online in 2256. The Minbari Federation was the first to sign on and provided much of the funding for the station, on the condition they would be allowed to choose the station commander. The Grey Council selected Jeffrey Sinclair, but did not reveal the reason why. Delenn came aboard the station in the guise of a simple ambassador. She did not use her honorific title of Satai, nor explain her connection to the Grey Council in any way. She quickly befriended Jeffrey Sinclair and was deeply impressed by his character, finding him to be very much like a Minbari. Shortly after her arrival, she learns of Babylon 4, recognizing it from the surviving records of the war of 1260 to 1261. She remained quiet for fear of disrupting the timeline. In 2257, Kosh was sent to the station to be the ambassador for the Vorlons. He nearly died when an assassin poisoned him as soon as he arrived. Delenn was dismayed when the evidence suggested it was Sinclair, so much so that she did not stand up for him when the Babylon 5 Advisory Council voted to hand him over to the Vorlons. Thankfully, Sinclair was able to prove his innocence. The real culprit was in fact a Minbari assassin from the Windswords clan. Delenn helped expose him and apologize to Sinclair for the incident. And we'll be right back after this. Delenn quickly acclimates to her role as ambassador. The Minbari Federation is slowly turning from its isolationist position and embracing more trade, though by and large the process is slow. Delenn does what she can to encourage peace among the other worlds. In early 2258, she joins Earth in condemning the attack by the Narn regime against Centauri civilian colony at Regish 3. A few weeks later, a strange alien ship drifts through the jump gate and is brought on board the station. Delenn accompanies Sinclair to the med lab where the ship's lone occupant was taken. She is horrified to discover that the alien is a soul hunter. She attempts to seize a PPG from Security Chief Michael Garibaldi and kill it on the spot. but Garibaldi and Sinclair stop her. Afterwards, she apologizes for her hasty reaction, but explains to Sinclair the nature of the Soul Hunters and how they are an affront to the Minbari. A few hours later, she visits the Soul Hunter in Medlab privately, demanding to know if he has any Minbari souls in his collection. The Soul Hunter mocks her beliefs regarding what happens to souls. As they talk, he recognizes her. He was among the Soul Hunters who attempted to claim the soul of Dukat. He knows she is a member of the Great Council and asks why someone of her rank is their playing ambassador. Troubled by his knowledge of her identity, Delenn leaves. The Soul Hunter escapes and kidnaps her from her quarters. Contrary to the mandates of his order, this Soul Hunter plans on murdering her and taking her soul that way. He begins draining her blood to kill her slowly. As she nears death, his machine allows him to glimpse some of her thoughts, and what he sees surprises him greatly. Fortunately, Sinclair is able to rescue her and kill the Soul Hunter. He takes her immediately to Medlab, where Dr. Stephen Franklin is able to save her. Awakening briefly, Delenn sees Sinclair nearby and deliriously mutters, "We were right about you," before falling asleep again. After she recovers, Sinclair arranges for the dead Soul Hunters collection to be given to her in secret. She cracks the globes containing them, releasing the souls from their captivity. Delenn is sent an aide a few weeks later, a young acolyte named Lanier. She welcomes him in the same way Dukat welcomed her, telling him it's alright to look up. She also explains that he is not to mention her connection to the Grey Council nor use her title when addressing her. Lanier assists Delenn in putting on a Minbari rebirth ceremony during a week-long series of festivities aimed at highlighting the different religious traditions of the races on the station. Thank you for watching part 1 of the history of Delenn. Stay tuned for part 2. And also thank you for watching the history of Babylon 5. Special thanks to the Babylon Project for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.